Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. The streets were deserted as I drove to the funeral home where Emily worked. The night was thick with a fog that seemed to swallow the weak beams of my headlights. I hadn't seen Emily in days. Her new night shift job kept her busy at hours when most were asleep, and the loneliness was gnawing at me. A surprise visit, I thought, might lift both our spirits. The funeral home, an ancient Victorian mansion, looked more sinister at night, its towering silhouette etched against the moonlit sky. As I parked, the crunch of gravel under my tires sounded unnaturally loud. I grabbed the bouquet of roses I'd bought for Emily from the passenger seat and stepped out into the chilly air. Inside, the dimly lit hallway smelled of lilies and varnish. It was quiet, too quiet. The usual secretary who manned the front desk during the day was absent, leaving behind an eerie stillness. I called out for Emily, but only my echo answered back. Emily. My voice felt small in the vast, ornate space. No response. A chill ran down my spine, not from the cold, but from the unnerving silence. I wandered down the hallway, past closed doors and portraits that seemed to watch me with solemn eyes. The soft tap of my footsteps on the wooden floorboards was the only sound. When I reached the door to the viewing room, it was slightly ajar, a sliver of red catching my eye. It was odd, Emily had mentioned they didn't have any viewing scheduled tonight. Curiosity piqued, I pushed the door open. Inside, the room was bathed in dim, red light from a single overhead lamp. There, in the center of the room, stood a luxurious red coffin. Something about it was magnetic, almost calling to me. As I approached, strange noises emerged from within, muffled voices, laughter. A knot formed in my stomach. Emily's laughter was unmistakable, but it was mingled with a deeper, unfamiliar voice. My heartbeat quickened. I reached the coffin, my hands trembling as I moved to slide the lid open. In one swift motion, the lid was aside, and the scene before me burned into my vision. Emily, scarcely dressed, paused in laughter, her eyes wide with shock. Next to her, a man, dressed bizarrely in a vampire costume, sat up, equally stunned. John. What, how? Emily stuttered, her face flushing a deep red. Words failed me. My heart thudded painfully against my chest as the truth settled in, heavy and suffocating. I had come to surprise her, to bring joy to our mundane evenings, yet here I was, the fool in my own tragedy. Why, Emily, was all I could muster, my voice a mix of anger and disbelief. It's not what it looks like, John, she scrambled to explain, fixing her clothes with trembling hands, but the man in the costume simply sat there, an awkward spectator to our marital discord. I couldn't listen. The betrayal was too deep, the wound too fresh. Without another word, I turned on my heel and left the room, the image of Emily with another man seared into my memory. As I drove home, the silence of the car was a stark contrast to the storm raging within me. Betrayal, hurt, and anger churned together, brewing a dark resolve. Emily had made her choice, and now, I would make mine. The marriage was over, and her deception would not go unpunished. My mind raced with plans, each more vindictive than the last. I would expose her infidelity, shatter her reputation, and ensure the divorce left her with nothing. She had played with fire, and now she was going to get burned. The drive home felt longer than usual, my emotions a chaotic whirlwind. But by the time I reached our house, my decision was clear. Emily's career at the funeral home would end in scandal, and our marriage, in ruins. The stage was set, the actors in place, and the drama of our lives was about to unfold in a crescendo of revenge and liberation. Tonight was just the beginning. As dawn broke, I found myself outside a quaint coffee shop, the first rays of sun doing little to lift the weight from my shoulders. Inside, the warm aroma of roasted beans was a stark contrast to the turmoil in my mind. I ordered a coffee, black, and took a seat by the window, watching life go on as if nothing had changed. John. Is that you? The voice snapped me out of my reverie. It was Michael, Emily's brother, who happened to be jogging by. His brow furrowed in concern when he noticed my disheveled appearance. Everything okay? I hesitated, then decided Michael deserved to know the truth. No, everything's not okay, I said, motioning him to sit. It's Emily. I caught her last night. She wasn't alone. Michael's expression darkened. What do you mean? In the funeral home. With someone else. In a coffin, Michael. It's as bad as it sounds. Michael shook his head, a mix of anger and disbelief painting his features. I can't believe she'd do something like this. He paused, his jaw clenching. What are you going to do? I'm going to expose her, I declared, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. I need evidence. Photos, perhaps. I need people to know what she's done. Michael nodded slowly, the decision weighing heavily on him. I don't support this, John, but I won't stop you. Emily needs to face the consequences. I thanked him and left, my resolve hardened. The first step was to get tangible proof. I contacted an old college friend, Laura, who now worked as a private investigator. We arranged to meet at the park, a neutral place away from prying eyes. Laura was punctual, her demeanor professional. John, tell me everything, she urged as we sat on a secluded bench. After I recounted last night's debacle, Laura scribbled notes, her brows furrowed. We can set up surveillance cameras, she suggested. Capture whatever happens in that room. If your suspicions are correct, we'll have everything on video. Let's do it, I affirmed, feeling a twinge of guilt but overpowering it with thoughts of betrayal. By nightfall, Laura had discreetly installed hidden cameras in the viewing room at the funeral home. We retreated to her van parked a block away, monitoring the live feed from her laptop. The hours ticked by slowly, each minute stretching longer than the last. Then, the screen flickered as the door to the viewing room opened. It was Emily, accompanied by the same man in the vampire costume. They seemed oblivious to the cameras, their laughter echoing through the speakers. My heart sank as I watched, the reality of the situation sinking in deeper. This is enough, I whispered, feeling a mix of victory and despair. Let's turn it off. Laura nodded, closing her laptop. What now? Tomorrow, I said, a plan forming in my mind. I confront her at the funeral home. In front of everyone. She won't see it coming. Laura placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. I'll be there if you need backup. The drive home was long and silent. I was ready to end this charade and reclaim my dignity. Tomorrow, Emily's deceit would be public, and I would finally be free from the web of lies she had woven around us. The storm was about to break, and I was the harbinger. The morning air is crisp as I pull into the parking lot of the funeral home, the sun barely cresting the horizon. My heart pounds in my chest, a drumbeat to the showdown that awaits. Today, I reclaim my life. As I walk through the front doors, the familiar scent of lilies and polished wood greets me. The funeral home is quiet, too quiet for the storm that's about to hit. I make my way to the viewing room, the scene of Emily's betrayal, the images from last night's surveillance fresh in my mind. I arrive at the door, take a deep breath, and push it open. Inside, Emily stands near the red coffin, arranging some documents on a clipboard. She looks up, startled to see me. John. What are you doing here so early? There's a nervous twitch in her voice, a slight tremble that she tries to mask with surprise. I think you know why I'm here, Emily. I step into the room, closing the door behind me with a soft click. My eyes lock onto hers, searching for any sign of remorse, any sliver of the woman I married. John, please, we can talk about this, she starts, but I cut her off. We are past talking, Emily. My voice is steady, but inside, I'm a chaos of emotions. I pull out my phone and show her the video Laura and I recorded. I know about him. The man in the vampire costume. Really, Emily? Her face drains of color, her eyes wide with shock. John, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. My raised voice echoes off the walls. Just then, the door opens again, and the man from the video steps in. He stops short when he sees me. Looks like we're all here, I say bitterly. Perfect. John, please, let's handle this privately, Emily pleads, her voice breaking. No, Emily. It ends today, and it ends here. I turn to the man, who looks uncomfortably from me to Emily. What's your name? Mark, he replies hesitantly. Well, Mark, congratulations on being part of this mess. I look back at Emily. I'm done, Emily. We're done. I want a divorce, and I want it uncontested. Emily sobs, her body shaking. John, I made a mistake. Please. It's too late for sorry. You should have thought about that before. I feel a harsh satisfaction as I watch her crumble, tempered by a profound sadness for what we had lost. I'm going to HR, I continue, my voice now a cold mask. I'll expose everything. Your little escapades here after hours. I'm sure the board will be thrilled. John, you can't. Emily reaches out, but I step back, avoiding her touch. I can, and I will. I turn to leave, then stop and look back at her one last time. Goodbye, Emily. I walk out of the room, my steps heavy but determined. As I pass through the hallways of the funeral home, I feel a weight lifting off my shoulders. The air feels cleaner, the future uncertain but suddenly open. Outside, Laura waits in her car. She gives me a nod of approval as I approach. Everything go as planned? Yes, I reply, sliding into the passenger seat. It's over. Laura starts the car and we pull away from the funeral home. In the rearview mirror, I see the building shrink into the distance, taking with it the remnants of my broken marriage. Ahead, the road stretches out, wide and inviting, a symbol of new beginnings and the promise of a life reclaimed. The city buzzes around me, indifferent to the turmoil that has upended my life. The last few days have been a blur of meetings with lawyers and bitter exchanges with Emily, each interaction more strained than the last. Today, though, everything comes to a head. Today, I end this chapter of my life for good. As I step into the cool, impersonal lobby of the law firm handling our divorce, I spot Emily already waiting, her posture rigid, eyes red-rimmed. Beside her stands Mark, the man from the funeral home, his presence like salt in my wounds. John, Emily begins as I approach, her voice low, can we talk before we go in? I pause, considering. After everything, I'm curious what she could possibly say to sway my feelings now. All right, I agree, nodding towards a quiet corner of the lobby. Once out of earshot, Emily takes a deep breath. John, I know you have no reason to believe anything I say, but there's more to this story than you know. I cross my arms, my skepticism clear. I'm listening. It was all a setup, she says, the words rushing out. Mark and I, we were never having an affair. All of this was orchestrated to make you believe we were. I stare at her, dumbfounded. Why? Why would you do that? Not me, she clarifies quickly. It was Mark's idea. He's been trying to push you out of the company. My involvement was a mistake, I thought it was a prank at first. By the time I realized what he was really up to, it was too late. I process her words, a mixture of anger and confusion swirling within me. So, you're saying this was all to get me to leave the company? Why would Mark care about that? He's been embezzling from the company, Emily reveals, her eyes meeting mine with a desperate honesty. He thought if he could drive you away, there'd be no one left to catch him. The pieces of the puzzle begin to fall into place, but the betrayal still stings. And you just went along with it? I ask, my voice hard. I tried to back out, but he threatened to ruin both of us. I thought I could fix it before it went too far, she admits, her voice breaking. Before I can respond, our lawyers call us into the conference room. The meeting is a blur, the legal terms and settlement details washing over me as I mull over Emily's confession. After signing the papers, I confront Mark in the parking lot, the anger and betrayal sharpening my resolve. I know about the embezzlement, Mark. And I've already reported you to the board. Mark's face pales, his facade of confidence crumbling. You can't prove anything, he blusters, but the fear in his eyes tells a different story. I already have, I say, turning to leave. Good luck. As I walk away, Emily catches up to me. John, I'm so sorry. I never wanted any of this. Save it, I cut her off, the hurt too deep, the trust irreparably broken. Goodbye, Emily. She stands there, a solitary figure in the growing dusk, as I drive away. The last ties that bound us are severed, the deceit too deep to forgive. I drive towards the horizon, the cityscape giving way to open skies, my heart lighter with each mile. The future is uncertain, but it is mine to shape, free from lies and betrayal.